An entire city square. Frozen. Silent. Every single person staring at the sky. What they saw was never officially explained, and the Romanian communist government made absolutely sure of it. But this story isn't just history. It's personal. Because someone I know was there. A man. Reliable. Grounded. Not someone who chases shadows or invents stories. In 1968, he was a young man living in Turda, a small city in the Cluj region of Transylvania, Romania. One evening, he was in the city square when something made him look up. He didn't see a distant light. He didn't catch a fleeting glimpse. He, along with every single person in that square, watched a large, brilliantly glowing orange object hovering above them, perfectly still, enormous, silent, not moving, just there. He never forgot it. Decades later, he still can't explain what it was. But here's what makes his story truly remarkable. He wasn't alone, not even close, because in the summer and autumn of 1968, something visited the skies of Transylvania, and thousands of people saw it. But what happened next would shake an entire country, and the government would go to extraordinary lengths to make sure you never heard about it. To understand why this story matters, you need to understand where it happened. Romania, 1968. Firmly under communist rule, a country where the government controlled the newspapers, the television, the radio, where ordinary citizens chose their words carefully because the wrong words had consequences. This was not a country of conspiracy theories and tabloid headlines. This was a country of fear, which is exactly why what happened next so extraordinary. When the UFOs came, and they came in numbers, even the communist-controlled state media couldn't fully suppress the reports. There were too many witnesses, too many credible ones. Scientists, engineers, military pilots, meteorologists, priests, and thousands of ordinary people who had no reason to lie and every reason to stay silent. But the most shocking part isn't what they saw. It's what the government did and didn't do afterwards. It started on the 17th of August, 1968. A Tarom airline flight, an IL-18 aircraft, cruising at 7,600 meters between Constanța and Dusseldorf. Captain Benjamin Gabrian was at the controls when near Oradea, something appeared beside his aircraft. An oval object, moving at extraordinary speed, emitting a bright green light. He watched it for 15 seconds before it accelerated and vanished west. A professional airline pilot in a communist country, officially reporting a UFO. That was just the beginning. One day later, the 18th of August, a military man named Emil Barnea was picnicking with friends in the Hoia Baciu forest outside Cluj-Napoca. A round metallic object appeared in the sky. He grabbed his camera, photographed it. The object silently disappeared. Those photographs were later analyzed by research institutes across Europe and the United States. No one could explain what was in them. But what happened 1 month later would be the most documented UFO event in Romanian history. September 19th, 1968. 3:15 in the afternoon. Cluj-Napoca. A large pyramidal object appeared in the sky, glowing brilliantly, completely stationary. At an altitude engineers later calculated to be 8,000 to 9,000 meters, nearly 9 kilometers above the ground. Visible to the naked eye. Enormous. The pilots of an incoming Tarom flight confirmed the sighting from the air. 2 independent engineers on the ground used precision theodolites to measure its altitude. Both reached the same number. A meteorologist recorded that winds at that altitude were blowing at 72 to 86 kilometers per hour, west to east. The object didn't move. Then, at certain moments, it moved against the wind. For nearly 4 hours, it hovered over the city. Witnesses described yellow-orange light pulsing continuously from within it. A Romanian television crew arrived and filmed it. That footage was shown to a small group of experts behind closed doors. It was never publicly broadcast. It has never been officially explained. But Cluj was not alone. That same afternoon, Deva, Mediaș, Sighișoara, Brașov, Bistrița. The object, or objects, seemed to be moving across Transylvania. And in a small village called Războieni Cetate, a priest watched something cross the sky. He was so shaken, he wrote about it. Not in a newspaper, not in a report, but in a church songbook. Hidden in the archives of the local Orthodox Church, his words survived decades of censorship. On Thursday, the 19th of September, 1968, around 5:45 in the evening, a flying saucer was observed with the naked eye. It was of a brilliant, glowing color. It was heading in the direction of Cluj. A priest, writing in a church book, because it was the only place he could safely record the truth. And 30 kilometers south of Cluj, in Turda, someone else was watching, the man I told you about at the beginning. Standing in the town square of Turda, directly on the path these objects appeared to travel. He was not a scientist, not a pilot, just a person, like you and me, living his life in a country where you kept your head down. But that evening, he looked up. A large, brilliantly glowing orange object, hovering, silent. The entire city square frozen around him, every face tilted toward the sky. He never reported it. In communist Romania, you didn't report things like that. You watched. You whispered to people you trusted. And then you tried to move on. He's still alive today, and he still remembers every detail. How many others carried this memory in silence for decades? Because there was no one to tell, and no one who would listen. And here is where the story gets truly disturbing. Because when people did come forward, the government had a very deliberate response. What visited the skies of Transylvania in 1968? The official answer from the Romanian communist government was silence. Deliberate, calculated silence. No press conference, no investigation made public, no explanation. The Romanian television footage, filmed by their own crew, locked away. Some researchers suggest weather balloons, but weather balloons don't hover motionless against 80-kilometer-per-hour winds for 4 hours. They don't pulse with orange light. They don't get independently measured by multiple engineers with precision instruments. Some suggest secret military aircraft. But no aircraft in 1968, from any nation, could remain stationary at 9 kilometers altitude, move against the wind, and be observed simultaneously over a dozen cities, hundreds of kilometers apart. The Romanian Association for the Study of Unidentified Aerospace Phenomena has spent decades documenting these events. Researcher Florin Gheorghiță compiled thousands of witness testimonies and scientific measurements. His conclusion was unambiguous. These objects were real, observed under rigorous conditions, by credible witnesses, and they remain completely unexplained. 56 years later, the footage still hasn't been released. The files are still closed. The silence continues. The UFO wave of 1968 is not legend. It is not folklore. It is documented history, witnessed by pilots, engineers, priests, meteorologists, and thousands of ordinary people. A government that controlled everything. The press, the television, the truth itself could not explain what appeared in its skies. So it chose silence. And somewhere in a town square in Turda, a young man looked up at something vast and orange and impossibly still. And whatever it was, looked back. If you know someone who witnessed something unexplained in Romania during this period, tell me in the comments. These stories have been silent long enough. And if this gave you chills, you know what to do.